Hey, welcome everybody. This is Chester Elton, the Apostle of Appreciation, with my dear friend and co-author, Adrian Gostick. Wave to the crowd, Adrian. And we are so excited to be involved in the Leadership Learning Lab for Kitsap. You know, we've gotten to know you guys over the years, and it's such a delight that you're giving us your time so that we can share with you some of the best coaching practices and leadership practices that we've discovered over, what is it now, Adrian, like 22 years we've been doing?
112 years. Yeah, we've been working together. Yeah. So, hey, and we're delighted. Yeah, look, this session's about checking in, right? Checking in with your people. Something that we have been teaching for a long time, but probably more important now with all the stress that people are feeling with the pandemic and coming out of that and hybrid work, et cetera, than ever, right, Chess?
Yeah, and you know, it's so interesting. I mean, we've got a database of 1 million engagement surveys. We've written 14 books. I mean, it's really interesting that when you come down to some of the basic building blocks of leadership, communication is just so important. I mean, it's about communicate. And I love this subject about check-ins that engage people. It's not just like, hey, how you doing? What's up? How about them, cracking? It's really meaningful conversations. And as you'll remember, when we wrote All In about high performance cultures, in our roadmap, one of the key steps was share everything, right? So how do we do that, Adrian?
Well, first off is to know that, and I write a column weekly for Forbes, and what we found at Forbes was 9 out of 10 managers say they avoid giving constructive feedback to their team members. Why? Well, they're just going to get upset.
Yeah.
And yet 65% of employees say they feel shortchanged when it comes to getting feedback from their bosses. So we've got this disconnect, right? And what we have to do is change this idea of checking in from, look, I'm going to motivate somebody or I'm going to change somebody. You're never going to change anybody who doesn't want to be changed. But we can create an environment where people feel like feedback is a gift. That's the key to this, right? Is I'm going to be giving feedback that's honest, but I'm also going to listen. I'm going to go in with palms up. What does that mean?
Yeah, palms up. I'm going to be, I'm interested. I'm paying attention. I don't have an agenda. I really want to know what you're thinking. You know, it's so interesting when we do our workshops to kind of lead people down the right path. We have this, silly little quiz, and we say, what's the biggest cause of employee dissatisfaction with workers? And is it not enough parking spaces, right? Is it bad Zoom connections? Is it coworkers' personal hygiene? One of my favorites. Or is it being left in the dark? And this whole idea of, it is obviously being left in the dark, right? So when you do these check-ins and you come in with palms up, I mean, I'm open to suggestions, open to your ideas. Your voice is heard. Engagement just naturally goes up, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So as we get to check-in questions, the first question, of course, is, what do you want to talk about? So when you're checking in with your people, hopefully you're doing this at least once a week. What do you want to talk about? And then some questions that we feel are important. First off, do you feel like you can complete your projects by deadline without undue stress or hours? Is there anyone else in the team who we might be able to bring over to help? That idea of rotating people now and then and balancing workloads. Is there any part of the projects that might be delayed that you're working on? We heard it over and over, didn't we, in our surveys, is I would just kill for my boss to help me prioritize my work. What has to get done? What can fall off the truck if we need to this week? Do you need any training or additional resources to be successful? And finally, what have you learned that we might do differently next time we're up against a task like this? Really simple checking questions, though, Chess. But what's the benefit in asking these on a regular basis?
Well, it's the conversation and what we talked about. Hey, your voice is heard. I'm paying attention. I love leaders that take notes, right? And I'm writing it down, and then there's a reflection and a review. That last question I really like. That's the reflection question. What did we learn? It's never going to be perfect. What did we learn? And I think as leaders, when our people understand that we are actively engaged in what they're thinking, in the process of learning, and of course, accomplishing. And look, we've got deadlines. That first question, are we going to hit the deadline? Yeah. That's a great question. Now, the more you ask those questions and the more you have the conversation, engagement isn't the only thing that goes up, right? Trust goes up. Yeah. I'm trusting you with my ideas. I'm not afraid. I love that statistic. 9 out of 10 managers are afraid. And yet 2/3 of employees aren't getting enough feedback. So this is creating that feedback loop, that conversation loop, and that becomes part of your culture, right?
Yeah.
We're in this together. It's not a top down. I'm not mandating this. We're in this together. We're building a team. And really, when you think about the wonderful culture that's already at Kitsap, I mean, they're already doing a lot of these things. What we're hoping to instill in you as we share these principles with you is create a ritual, create that routine. It's a good reminder, right, Adrian?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I love what you're saying there is that the rituals of checking in. Now, let's give you one example here. One company we worked with is called FYI Doctors up in Canada, but they're now spreading to the US, wildly profitable, wildly successful,
Crazy.
very, very high engagement scores. Now, it's an optometrist chain. So this is a retail example, but it has some good application. Now, of course, you've got branches, you've got people in headquarters, et cetera. What they do, their managers make a commitment and they sign that I will commit to do this. And they call it the 10-10 commitment, that for the first 10 minutes of every day, every single day, the leaders will walk around and ask their team members how they're doing. How was your night? How was your night? What you got going today work-wise? Just checking in. And then it's 10 minutes at the end of the day. How did your day go? Any frustrations? Any successes? They're checking in, right? And what does that do for them, Jess?
Well, see, again, it's this welcome, how you start the day. Start big, finish strong. Start big, finish strong. And how you start your day and how you set the mood is just so important. And again, it's that thread of gratitude, right? Hey, we're so glad you showed up today. Now, you remember this is a company in Canada. Adrian and I presented at their conference in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Eh? I mean, there's bad weather there, and
Yeah.
the snow comes in. So just this idea, hey, we really appreciate you showing up. A little preview of maybe what we're going to do that day. How are you guys feeling? How are you doing? What's on your mind for today? By the way, I got to just jump in and say, these glasses were a gift from FYI Doctors in Halifax. So pretty cool, eh? The point
I
is,
didn't even get a t-shirt. So it just tells you,
yeah, they like me more than they like you.
Yeah.
But we knew that going in. The point is how you start really matters. Then, so often we forget at the end of the day to just say thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe that was a bad weather day. Maybe it was we were short-staffed that day. Maybe there was something crazy. And at Kitsap, you've had some crazy stuff happen. We won't get into those details, but where people just, hey, that was a crazy day. Thanks so much, man. You guys really pulled it out of the fire today. You really showed up for our members, for our community.
Yep.
And make sure that they're leaving on a good note. We love that ripple effect of gratitude, right? That they take that home. Now, important point here, because we've had some conversations with the different departments. As you said, Adrian, look, if you're in a branch, 10 and 10 is no big deal. But if you're in IT and it's virtual and you're maybe meeting only once a week for an hour, 10 and 10 is 20% of your meeting. So maybe 10 and 10 doesn't work there. Maybe it's more like 3 and 3 or 2 and 2. I mean, figure it out. The idea is that it's a check-in at the beginning and at the end of the day. Set the tone, wrap up the day on a positive note. Did I miss anything there, Adrian?
It's as we did our research and our surveys, now 1 million employees in our database, it's amazing how often we heard people say, my boss doesn't even say hello in the morning.
Right.
What a simple little thing, right? But you are high-powered executives. You're motivated by very different things than sometimes the people who work for you. So again, figure what this 10 and 10 might mean for you. Maybe it's maybe the first 10 minutes of every day you're checking in with a different group that you oversee or manage. Maybe you're picking, I'll pick on this group today or this group. Maybe it's just a couple of individuals. There's ways to really make this your own. But what we found is that check-in can be really powerful. And sitting down with people for taking some time with them once a week or so with going through things, but those quick little check-ins can be really powerful. So our challenge for you this day is to think about what you can do to bring a little bit more of a check-in culture into what you are doing at Kitsap. Jess, what would you add to our challenge?
Well, it's the challenge for today, but it's the challenge for the month, right? So next month, we'll have another leadership learning lab, another concept, and we want to reflect on this on that next meeting and say, what is it that you learned? What questions worked for you? How did your group react? One of the questions that I love that you and I use in our executive coaching all the time is, what's top of mind for you today? And how can I help? What's top of mind? How can I help? you know? And so the challenge is, okay, how are we going to create a communication ritual where we check in and we wrap up every day and reinforce those wonderful Kitsap values, the service to your membership, and really create that atmosphere where, again, my voice is heard. Your people want that feedback. 2/3 say they're not getting enough. And I think really key to this little session we've got here, Adrian, is don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. It's a positive thing. As you mentioned earlier, it's a gift. It's a gift. And when we're in this together and we've got that common goal, can you have too much give and take? Can you have too much communication? Well, the answer is no. Don't leave your people in the dark. Check in with them. Engagement will go up. And by the way, trust will go up. And then, of course, we never finish anything we ever do without saying, and be sure to be grateful.
Yeah.
Remember to say, like you said, say hello, say thank you.
Yeah.
It doesn't take that much time.
Great. Well, okay. Well, we're going to go to Q&A here in just a second, but hopefully this has sparked some thinking. And we want you throughout this whole process to try some new things, to use a little courage, a little humility of what can I do to push and grow. We like to say what got you here as a leader isn't going to get you to the next level. So keep pushing, keep challenging yourself. And that's what these whole sessions are about, is to try new things. Some will work, some won't. But this is why it's a lab, right? We're going to learn and grow as we go forward over the next few months.
Yeah, we'll experiment together. It'll be great. And I love that, courage and humility. The third step that we always put at the end is discipline.
Yeah.
Just do it. And if you're not good at it right away, don't worry about that. When was the last time, you decided you wanted to play golf and you got an 18 in your first round? I mean, practice.
Oh, maybe mini golf, but yeah, not the big one. Yeah.
Courage, humility, and discipline. It's the check-ins that drive engagement. We're going to go to Q&A, and we're really interested. What's top of mind? What are you guys thinking about when we talk about this? And how might you create that culture of communication, engagement, and trust? Well, Adrian, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I think we go to the Q&A.
Let's do it.
I have a quick question. This is Trevor Stewart. We are a hybrid work environment. We touched on it briefly, but the ability, like the old days, to walk down the hall and to check in with everybody live is not quite as easily. For those of us that are not meeting on a daily basis, what are you talking about? Reaching out to individuals? Are you talking about scheduling special meetings to do this at the beginning and the end of the day? What have you seen that has worked best here in a hybrid work environment?
Yeah, excellent question. Actually, Scott and I talked about this with his group, and he said we don't meet every day, and so the individual check-in, I think, is important. He does meet with his team once a week for an hour. That's where we got that kind of look. 10 and 10 may not make sense, but a 2 and 2 might make sense. So you're touching on a really good point here, Trevor, that you've got to be flexible and adjustable to your team. What's going to work for you? Here's the overall concept. And we're big fans of the individual check-in, particularly for hybrid workers, because it's easy for them to be disconnected because they're not seeing people go down the hall. Nobody's popping in to say, hey, you want to go to lunch? So excellent question. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Adrian, the next question's for you.
Other thoughts on how check-ins might work? Or are you already feeling like you're doing fairly well with this? Or is this something where we can push and stretch and challenge ourselves to do a little more here?
Yeah, I think I can certainly stretch and do more. I think it's going to, just as I think about it, in the hybrid environment, it's going to take some trial and error. But I think about the one thing that you guys said was this discipline of just trying, doing it. It might not work what you think about doing the first time, but just try. And then eventually, I think we'll fall into a rhythm, fall into what works for us individually. So that's I like that. And sometimes it is that personal touch, or maybe you just pick one person a week where you just check in with them, call, but it's going to be trial and error what works for you. Maybe say once a week, you call in one of your people, even if it's a skip level, and saying, how you doing? And how you really doing? One of the things that the young people we noticed that they're doing is like the 20 somethings we've interviewed. They go, yeah, how you doing? And then they go, no, how you really doing? And they really are digging below that. I'm fine.
because we're all going through something. And it's nice to just have somebody to listen to. One of the stats we found was that if I have a boss who's willing to listen to my work-related problems, not just anything, that I think that the number was that they're over 60% less likely to burn out and leave. So just having somebody to listen makes a big difference.
And I always like it when Adrian tries that New Jersey accent. Hey, how you doing?
How you doing?
You live in Utah. You're not fooling me. That idea too about that constant communication. Again, it's experiment. What's working for you? Oh,
Yeah,
by the way, just really quick, sorry, is we have a follow-up where we're going to give you a little PDF with a summary. Not only will you have the recording of the Q&A and all this, but a little summary with the challenge. So there'll be a little recap as well. So we want to give you as many tools as possible for you and for the people that report to you and work with and for you.
And next month when we start, we'll have 5 or 10 minutes of let's go around a little bit. Let's report out. So what you tried. And so there's a little bit of a commitment here that nothing too draconian, but what did you try this last month? And then we'll keep doing that as we go through this.
I was just going to say that it's interesting that the beginning of the day and end of the day, we got into a really good rhythm of that in the operations area at the height of COVID. And it was a matter of just survival of, where are we at? Okay, where are we at the end of the day? Oh my God, we got through another day. But it all of a sudden kind of just went away because it became business as normal chaos. And so we're like, yep, same as yesterday, let's move on. But I think now stepping away from it and making more intentional touch base morning and night for whatever rhythm we find. Puts it back to that, kind of caring about the person.
Yeah, it's a reminder, right? I mean, there's nothing that we presented that you didn't think, oh yeah, I've done that before. And it's worked. Like you say, whether it was COVID or pre-COVID or whatever, the idea of having that discipline to get back into that rhythm and those reminders. And that's what we're hoping is that now with these recordings, you can build up your leadership library, right? So you can say, oh yeah, that check-in thing, and I'll go and I'll take a look at that for 10 or 12 minutes. And there's the PDF, the summary that goes with it. So the easy refresher. I mean, how often, Adrian, do we talk to executives and they go, boy, this is such a great reminder. I used to do this and I fell out of practice.
Yeah. And it's, thanks, Kelly, for that comment, because, what we did we were working with one hospital system and they put in place, it's a faith-based hospital, Methodist hospital. And so they called it the Sacred 60 and 60 minutes. So it's the second hour of every manager's shift, whether you're first, second, third shift of the day, that they turn off their phones, turn off their computers, and they're out working with their people. They're wandering around, how you doing? What's going on? Any challenges you're facing that I can help with? And the idea is that 60 minutes, they said, made more of a difference in increasing our engagement scores than anything we've done. So it's really, it's what works for you. As FYI doctors, the 10-10. The Methodist Hospital is that Sacred 60. And, what will work for you to really institutionalize this idea?
Yeah, I mean, back to Trevor, the individual check-in. Does that effective? Absolutely. And the other thing on that, Trevor, that as I was thinking about, ask your people how often. Some people like a check-in every week. Some people say, once a month is fine. In fact, just text me. So figure out what works for them, because one size doesn't fit all, obviously.
I in reflection in your comment as engagement increases, trust builds. We have a definition for trust organizationally, and one of the 3 components of trust is consistency.
Right.
So it's the one thing, and I think in just a reflection, I think about the people that I check in with consistency. So I check in with my wife before I leave the house in the morning, understand what's on the agenda for the day. And then at the end of the day, we recap on what got accomplished, where my attention is needed, what's changed. I do the same thing with Pam here in the office, right? It's like, on my drive in the morning, it's, we're reviewing the day's agenda, what's on the agenda, what things have to get accomplished, right? It's that consistency breeds that reliability. I think it goes back to Trevor's original question. It's like, boy, it's so much easier in the past to just walk down the hallway or, have those casual collisions of getting a cup of coffee or seeing someone, and leaders don't have that same, I'll say, opportunity as they've had in the past. And there was a great article in Harvard Business Review specifically about leadership and how what leadership was like back in 2017 compared to what it is today. And there's very little parallels in the sense that you have to shift your way of leading others. And really all we're talking about here is gaining that consistency so that we can build a deeper level of trust within the scope of the organization.
Yeah. And you hit on two things that are really important there, that consistency, because if you commit to do it and then you miss it from time to time, the message is it's not important, and often that you're checking the box. The second thing, and it would be interesting to add if you'd like, when we do that, is how do you take it home? These are great principles, like you say, at work. It's great at home, starting the day and checking in and wrapping up the day. So that could be a fun thing that we could add to the sessions as well. But that consistency, you're absolutely right. And then take it home. Why not?
Right.
Great. We want to be careful of your time. We know we only had half an hour scheduled. So Chester's ready with the crowd.
I'm just kidding. I'm going to the Devil's game tonight. It always comes back to hockey, one way or another.
Right.
Well, great. Well, let's take the last couple minutes. This obviously is our first one, and then we want to send it to the other group. But do you like this format? Do you like the time? Do you like the produced side and then the Q&A? I mean, you don't have to give it. And if you think of things later, give us your feedback, because we're experimenting as we go as well, right?
Yep.
I like it.
I just appreciate the fact that you have the same attire on between the video and the.
That was very intentional, I will tell you.
Impressive.
No, we're excited about bringing this forward, and again, just little things over extended period of time add up, right?
Yeah.
So
Also,
and we're we'll look forward to furthering our discussions and building the trust and the engagement this organization with our experiences here. So
Excellent.
Thank you all for the effort, and we'll for sure take our notes and bring back our reflections in our next conversation.
Absolutely. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
All right.
We're just delighted to be working with you. Thank you for your trust.
thank you.